Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. In celebration of Pride Month, I invited actors Adam Bucci, Adam Huss, and Greg Rikaart to join me for a Pride conversation. The gentlemen will shed light on their personal experiences and will delve into the progress made in the LGBTQIA rights, the challenges still faced, and the importance of visibility and representation in the media. I hope you'll stay tuned for insight into the ongoing fight for equality and help us celebrate the spirit of pride. Adam Bucci and Adam Huss are set to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary next month, while Greg Rikaart and his husband Rob Sudduth recently marked their 9th anniversary on May 9th. Greg and Rob are also raising their beautiful 8-year-old son, Montgomery, or Monty, I think they call him. Please help me welcome Adam Bucci, Adam Huss, and Greg Rikaart to the locker room. Gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Everybody, Greg's having trouble with his computer, but I believe you all can hear him.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
You are here. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, for your willingness to join for this conversation. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Yeah. You know, for me, I'm about 10 years older than all three of you. And during my coming out, I think about conversations like this and what they would have meant to me during that time in the 80s. So I wanted to start by reading a message I got from Michael Davis, who's watching. And he had said, "I'm very interested in hearing what these talented gentlemen have to say. The topics of gay marriage and child rearing needs to be discussed because of the lack of education and ignorance about these issues that are vital to the community and to end all of the misinformed individuals. If we can change one mind, you will surpass where others have failed." And he says also, Adam Huss comes from Long Island like me, and he may have a better understanding of his own situation. Because I think Michael struggles with coming out to people. So really, thank you for doing this. Here we are. It's 2024. Pride is somewhat commercialized, but it still has, I think, significant meaning. I'd love, what it means to all of you. Adam Bucci, if you want to start.
Sure. I think as someone that came out later in life, it's imperative to see those kinds of celebrations and community. I mean, it should be all year long, but to have a month devoted to that, I think is really important. It helps me feel included, and
yeah. Greg?
What to me is important about Pride? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Well, I think that just being an authentic person in whatever form that takes is the sort of purest, bravest thing that we can do as people. It's the best way to set an example, and to live authentically it's hard to imagine living your life any other way, right? Because if you're not, then who are you living for? So I think, like Adam said, I feel like I celebrate and I'm prideful all year, but it's nice to have this month to also, even though it is commercialized, when there is sort of any blowback, to help explain to people what the importance of this month is.
Very true. Adam Huss?
Yeah, and that, of course, what they both said resonates with me as well. And I think, you see this a lot on Instagram or social media. There's a post that says, why do people ask? Some people ask why we celebrate Pride all month long, and it's like, as long as there's any person who considers taking their life because they're not supposed to be here, it's important to have something like this, So that really sums it up for me. Anyone who feels other than and enough so that they would take their own life, and there is a lot of that, It just happened to my niece's friend a couple of days ago. He's trans. He was trans, and she texted me, and she was devastated. So That to me is why we have these conversations and why we have pride.
And I'm sure all four of us have felt othered, at some point, growing up, for sure. So many people have asked me, like, when did I know I was gay? And it's interesting because, again, being older, in being in the 1980s, there were no conversations like this. There weren't out actors in the community. There was relatively nothing on television where I could see representation. So to articulate what I was struggling with or feeling, there just weren't words. So I'm curious, growing up, Greg, for you, like, was there a moment for you that you knew you were gay? Did you understand it?
Well, what you just said resonated for sure. Any time I see an example of a character on a television show or in a movie where I'm like, oh, that I can relate to that character, even if I'm not exactly like them, if there's anything about that character that resonates with me, I'm like, man, that would have been so helpful and impactful to me when we're young and we're impressionable. But to answer your question, no, I mean, I grew up in the 80s as well. I knew from a very young age that I was different. I don't know if I completely understood what exactly that meant, but, I didn't necessarily like to do the things that the other boys did. But in feeling othered, and I think we're all sort of from suburban New York, right? Bridget's there's a very, at least where I grew up.
Yes.
Where I grew up,
we all are. Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So where I grew up on Staten Island, which I'm sure is somewhat similar to where you guys were in Long Island, there's a very sort of working class machismo where differences are not celebrated. And so rather than letting my otherness be something to embrace, I very quickly learned to quell that part of myself and just to try and assimilate and fit in. And, which is looking back on it, it's a pretty sad way to grow up when everyone else is getting to just sort of discover who they are authentically and just, I don't know, have a sort of more carefree experience of adolescence and childhood and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's so true. I was speaking with somebody about, how impressive it is when there's a young person who's, even before being a teenager, 9 or 10, coming out.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of that comes from the representation that they get to witness that we did not get to
100%.
witness growing up.
I always wonder, and I don't know what the answer is, like if the needle was moved forward because of the AIDS epidemic and people realizing that there were people that they knew and loved who were suffering and struggling, or if that sort of paused or postponed what I think has eventually happened by way of representation on television and in movies, because I think the community was so sort of sidetracked with like saving lives in that regard, than they were more concerned with, just moving the needle forward as far as like equal rights and all that was concerned.
And there was so much fear, around what it meant to be gay, whether it was from the community itself or from, other people. Like I remember my mom, who's amazing now, was so afraid of that for me, like, because I think my uncle had mentioned to her when I was young that he noticed they weren't getting along because he was gay, and he kind of went about it in the wrong. I think I talked about this on our podcast interview. He kind of went about it in a very negative way, which I have more empathy for now. But back then, he just seemed like a real outcast to my whole family, and he acted out in some dark ways. But he, I think because of that, my mom, because he said to my mom, like, I see tendencies in him. You better watch it or you're going to have it in your own house, whatever. She was so afraid and like brought that up a lot. Like as a young age, she would show me front page news about AIDS, and that's what I knew, and HIV, and look how scary this is. You can't be this. And it was very jarring as a kid, you know. My mom and I have reconciled that and talked about that. And again, she's so supportive, but I think that was a big reason why, also what Greg was saying, like why there was a slower embrace of, you know, being who we are and hiding it more. And
I never really thought of what Greg said, and I think that's really spot on in a lot of ways. I mean, I was very blessed where my mother asked basically around 21 if I was straight, and she was very accepting. But the next question was really, you know, about HIV, because that was, you know, 88, relatively 88, 89. So her fear, you know, immediately went there. Adam Bucci, I know you came out much later. Did you have any inkling early on that you were, you know, while you were growing up, that you were gay or bi? I don't know if you.
Yeah, I think. Well, the interesting thing is, you know, I didn't have any. I either thought you had to be gay or straight, and there was no in between. And it honestly took so long until I met Adam, honestly, 10, 11 years ago, that he phrased it like, I don't believe in labels. And I just was curious what you're all about. That's what he asked me. And I was like, I'm straight. You know, that's all I knew. And, but yeah, looking back, I, like Greg said, I knew I was different. I knew I didn't fit in here. I didn't fit in there. I wasn't like all the other guys. But I didn't know what it really gay meant, really. Like I had, even in college, I had a gay roommate, gay friends, and I was dancing and doing theater, but I didn't fit in with like the guys that identified as gay, and I didn't fit in with the guys that identified as straight. And I was dating women, and I was and still attracted to women, if that makes sense. But I found my person with Adam, and I'm, you know, opened up and cracked out of my shell. So do I identify as completely gay now? Like now that I know there's this plethora of labels and spectrum, and that I can now see out in the media, like maybe I am more in the middle. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like there's a sliding scale. So for lack of a better term, yeah, I'm gay, you know, but I've learned so much in like the last 10 years that wasn't around before. So if I was in college and had all this stuff out there that I could see in representation, I may have been brave enough to say, oh, maybe I'm curious. Maybe I'm, you know, bi or queer or, you know, fluid. That didn't exist for me. So to just say I was gay growing up that's not how I felt. So I couldn't let myself go there. So like I said, when I met Adam, he opened up my eyes to like, you can be more than one thing. You don't have to have a label. And I was introduced to families having kids that were, you know, different than what I was used to growing up. So,
and I had only just come to that at the time when I met him. You know, I thought they're also the same. Like, it has to be one or the other. Even though we both had dated women and were in love with women back in high school and college, we had attractions that we denied. You know, so then when we explored when I explored those, because I wanted to live authentically and also not hurt anyone in the hurt someone that I was in love with and wasn't sure. Like, hey, I'm with this woman, but I have these feelings. I need to know if this is true or not. And as I explored that and understood it more in relationships, then by the time I met him, I was single and like just working on myself. And when I met Adam, it was more about, I'm really not, I don't know, there is no label on who I am. You know, I know that I'm in the LGBTQ spectrum, but I really believe in love. And I knew that I was probably more closer to gay, but if that makes sense. But I also knew that I could have been attracted to women. But when I met him, I just fell in love with him, and I think that was a mutual feeling on both of our parts, obviously. And yeah, I didn't know that was possible. And I will say, the thing that really made me understand love in any form was YA novels. I know that sounds funny, but I love reading. And a lot of YA novels tackle the subject of LGBTQ romance in such a beautiful way that I started reading so many of those books and because it wasn't yet on TV. It was just starting. And as I saw those that depicted, I'm like, this is beautiful. Like, this is love. This is what I believe to be a beautiful, the beautiful definition of love, no matter who it's with, you know? And that's when I think I was less afraid to say, I love this man, I'm going to be with him. And yeah, I don't mean to take away from the label of gay or not, because it is important, but I think.
Well, I think the label is important to each individual, that whatever they are. And it's so interesting too, because talking about not seeing representation, I think it's the representation today that, Bucci, you were just talking about, like, not being in college and not having people around you. And I think now in high school, there are gay and trans and they and them, which just make all of the students comfortable with their fellow classmates in a way I could never have been during my time, and it is beautiful to see that progress, I think.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, when people say, I can't imagine high school with a cell phone, like, it's like that same feeling. Like, I can't imagine being in high school, like, when people are comfortable with their sexuality, So there was always that stigma. There was always that one kid that was out, that, like, everyone made feel like a pariah, and it just, that's how it was, and it was a scary thing, and, like, you didn't want to be friends with that person. It was sad,
I got lucky when I sort of came out. I was reintroduced to somebody from high school who really introduced me to my community back in 88, 89, that are still some of my dearest friends today. For all three of you, how did you find your community after coming out? Greg, if you want to. Sure.
Well, I think that by the time I was in college, I was like, okay, unlike the Adams, I was clear on the fact that I was gay, 100% card carrying.
I'm with you on that.
But I was still trying to, there was still that mold that I was like, let me try and squeeze myself into this. And, that just gets exhausting, right? So, couple of things. I definitely knew I wanted to pursue a career as an actor, but I had so many ties in New York. So everybody was like, well, just go home, live at home for free and audition in New York. But I was like, no, I really think I need to kind of move across the country and not just sort of try to start a career, but also really dig deep into figuring out who I am. So that was a big motivator for me to come out to LA, where I knew nobody, and just start my life here. And then I think it was just through, working at a restaurant and taking acting class that I began to make friends and meet people. And then soon enough, I had some gay friends who helped sort of, usher me out of the closet, if you will, and get me more comfortable with who I was. And then, I think the analogy I used to use was like an onion. You can tell acquaintances and people you don't know very well, because there's not a lot of high stakes there as with regard to whether or not they're going to accept you. And also in Los Angeles, it was rare to come across somebody who wasn't accepting. And then you dig a little deeper, and I began to tell, friends from home, and then of course, like, the innermost layer of that onion would be like close friends and family. And again, I think just sort of the more authentic you begin to live, the more that becomes something that you aspire to do. And, I got very tired very quickly of, like, editing conversations I was having with my family about who I was spending time with, or who if I was dating somebody, being vague about any of that. So, but yeah, just moving out to LA and making friends here is, I think, really what helped me get comfortable.
Yeah, leaving with and that's the difference. Sadly, I didn't leave home. I mean, not sadly, because it led to great opportunities. But it's amazing. Did you struggle telling anybody, Greg? Like, I know, like, there were, my best girlfriend from high school. I just couldn't it took me almost 10 years to do it.
Yeah, I think that there were women who were very good friends. One in particular who I had we were friends, but we also crossed the line into having a romantic relationship at times because, again, I was trying to sort of fit into a mold. I think that was one of the more challenging tells, I think, because you feel like in some way it's a naive thought, but that you are letting somebody down in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, telling my mother was easy. Telling my father was a little more challenging. But I think that he needed his time the same way, which I think I was able to give him grace for that because I certainly needed my time. I think we all needed our time, right? So the expectation that somebody who, again, grows up with a different set of understanding and values and experiences will just be able to flip a light switch and I think is a big ask, and it's one that I don't begrudge anyone that has to take a journey. I think I have less patience and understanding for people that don't sort of come out on the other side of that journey, if it's a parent or a family or somebody who just is unwilling to get introspective and figure out how to get from a lack of understanding to full acceptance and embracing. But my dad took a little bit of time, not much, and I think at the end of the day, I'm his son and he loves me and I love him, and that's more important than anybody's preconceived idea of what they expect or what they want of you. And I also think I'm going on a tangent, but that also makes me a better dad now because
for sure.
I like to think I have very few expectations of what I expect my son to be. There are certain, I think just to be a person in society, certain rules to obey and things like that. But, my son is an athlete. Like, he's just obsessed with soccer. And I'm like, how did this happen? I know nothing about it. We go to soccer games now and we watch a lot of soccer on TV, but that's who he is. Yeah. And it may not be like, my bag of tricks, but I'm going to figure it out because I love him. But I don't care.
You're a pretty pickleball player, though.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm a good pickleball player. But,
we saw him playing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but I think I have been saddled with a raging heterosexual child. I could be wrong, but I believe that is what is going to be his journey, and I love him anyway.
That's very funny.
That is well said. For you, Adam and Adam, you're finding your community.
I think again, I've always been a seeker. That's just who I've been. Like when I moved here, I started talking to a therapist at a very young age because I was like, I want to figure stuff out. I want to figure out why I tick like this. What's going on with me? Why am I, things that I didn't tell people yet back home. And again, like, where do I fit? Knowing I was different, knowing there was a bigger community here to be a part of, and I did. It's like any community. That's the thing, right? Just like heterosexual people. Like, if you're not every bar is the bar for you. And I had to I hate to deduce it to that, but really, I had to figure out who are my people? Where do I belong? What is this thing that I didn't explore back when other young people were exploring it? Like Greg said earlier, one of my best friends, Catherine, said, it's almost like you're having your teens in your 20s because you couldn't have the real stuff then. You hit it, and I censored it, and it was true. So it's like, I really didn't know what, I knew who I was, but at the same time, I didn't know exactly. I knew what my values were, what love meant to me in ways, but I didn't know what that looked like in meeting people authentically, So I think the people, my tribe, so to speak, came to me the more I shed those layers, the more I did, date people and figured out who I was and what I was. And I think when I met Adam, and he was coming out as well. People said to me, you know, you've kind of been on this journey for the last couple of years. Now you're meeting someone who's hasn't been out. Aren't you afraid that he's gonna want to explore whatever? And I'm like, no, because I don't know, we want the same things. There's a different connection here. And in that way we connected, all of a sudden these people in this play we were doing, because we met doing a play, they became our community. They went from sort of being a little judgy to like totally, because maybe they liked one of us or whatever, they weren't sure, but then to like embracing us, and they became our tribe and our family. And they were at like our engage when I proposed to him at this housewarming we had, like all those people grew from there, you know, and we made, yeah, it's like there was no, the more authentic we became, the more we found our authentic friends and our authentic people that not only accepted us, but we accept them for whoever they are, you know? And I will say one more thing, like when, I remember someone said to me when I was struggling with coming out and figuring out who I was, like, you don't need to tell your parents until you are dating somebody. And that felt false to me because, like Greg said, like I am close with my family, and I felt like I was censoring parts of me. And so I told my mom when I was ready, and like your mom, she kind of asked me at 23 or 24 because she lost that brother. She had just lost her father to cancer, and then a year or so later, her brother died of a drug overdose. And so she was so raw that she said, I don't want to lose another person that I love, and I have to ask you something. I feel like you're holding something. My mom is she's a Pisces too, like me. She's very instinctual. And she was like, I feel like you're hiding something. I don't want you to get mad at me, please. Because in the past, it was more of a blame thing when she had said this to me once or twice. But now it was like a whole different approach. I love you, and I want you to know this is okay. And if you're hiding this, I'm going to say it, but please don't get mad. And she said it. And I remember, I think I told you this on the last time we talked. I said no. When she said, are you gay? No. And then the more we talked, she's like, okay, just wanted to ask that. And the more we talked, I felt like this lump here, like you have to say it. This is your chance for freedom, you know? And I think we hung up, and I called her back, and I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something. You were right. She's like, about what? I'm like, was it the money thing? You need money? I'm like, no. It was about the gay thing. And, you know, and from there, like everything, you know, my mom had her own journey from there. It wasn't like I told her and she was like, yay. She told me later on she went into a depression. My grandma helped get her out of that. But like I then approached each one of my family members. She asked me if she wanted me to tell my dad, and I was like, no, let me do it. And it was a long journey, and it really took until I married him for a full acceptance from like my dad and certain people. But yeah, I knew it was because I chose that day to not lie anymore, you know?
Yeah, we are really, you know, as I think back, I don't have either parent, and the fact that my mother asked when she did, it was a blessing. I mean, I probably would not have told her for a long time. And, you know, I lied all the time, you know, to the straight friends. Where are you going? Who, you know, I don't know what I made up. Going to Provincetown was going to a different straight town on the Cape, you know, like it was just,
you know, what's funny is my dad always said to me growing up, whenever he got viciously mad at us, it was because we lied. If we hurt my brother and didn't say what really happened, it's because we lied. And so he would say to us, you just be honest. I don't care what it is. You need to be honest in your life. And I think because there was so much secrecy and lies in the gay community, because they had to, some people had to, just like you're saying, that to me was like, I don't want to live like that. And you told me not to. So I did say that to him when I came out to him. I didn't blame him. I just said, hey, you told me to live honestly, and this is my honest truth, you know?
Well, Adam and I were on the phone last week or so, and I was telling Adam Bucci, I came out to the bar in New Jersey called Feathers, and I would literally park under an office building and run inside for fear of being seen as I would go into this place, because that was the time, you know, you feared your friends or family catching you going into one of these bars, where I truly found my community.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is, for context for your viewers, which is in my hometown in New Jersey.
Yes, it is in his hometown. Yes, River Edge,
Which
New
I've
Jersey.
I've never set foot in that bar, and I was like, it was almost like the haunted house in a movie that the little kids don't want to go into, like Michael Myers' house. I was like afraid of it growing up because I knew it was something different.
Well, it kind of looks like that too. It's like a barn.
It's just like a house with no windows.
That's funny.
And I would take that bus stop right there to go into New York for auditions after college, and it was just that looming building. Like I just was like, I wonder what goes on in there. Like I was scared of it really because I was scared to admit I was curious about it probably. But I told you next time I'm home I got to go in there.
Let me know. I will I will certainly meet you, Greg. You know, you revealed back in 2013 that you were in a committed relationship with your boyfriend, now husband, by posting that photograph after marriage equality.
Yeah.
Was that a spontaneous reaction to marriage equality passing for you to share it with the world?
Was that 2013?
Yeah.
Wow. God, I'm old. Yeah, it was somewhat spontaneous. In that I don't think it was premeditated to make a move that evening, but it was definitely something that had been on my mind for some time. Because I don't know, it's sort of going back to what we were saying earlier about just authenticity, but there is hopefully less of it these days, but certainly when we were getting started, at least Adam Huss and I, because we both moved here, I think, right around the same time. We've known each other for a couple of decades now. And certainly like what it was like to audition and be a young actor in the year 2000 was different than it was, you know, even just 10 years later. So, and I've told this story before, and one day I will say the name of the person who said this to me. I'm not ready to do it just yet, but I had a casting executive who was an acquaintance who drunkenly said to me at a party once, this isn't like the mid-aughts, that she could never knowingly cast a gay actor as a romantic lead. And this was at a time that I was auditioning for romantic leads all the time. And that's a pretty scary thing to hear because, you know, on one hand you have this instinct and this desire to be authentic. And on the other hand, there's a Darwinistic instinct to just survive and to be able to make a living as an actor and have a career. And those things for a long time felt like they were in conflict with one another. And then I think a combination of just sort of that desire to be authentic, maybe holding more weight than the other side of that scale. And also, I think at that point I'd probably been on Young and Restless for, I don't know, 10 years, 9 years, and to a point where I felt like, you know what, I feel secure in my, I don't know, I think I just felt safe. I felt safe to do it. And also, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just safe to do it. And also, I don't know, I think the other thing that I desire to have in my life is impact in large and or small ways. And I felt like maybe that by doing that could have some level of impact.
Yeah, I love that. Was marriage something you had thought about before it was sort of the talk?
Nope. No, I think that I don't know. I think I'm kind of a pragmatic person. In fact, Rob and I we used to do these one-act plays with a bunch of our friends, and they were all sort of like kind of, you know, 10, 15-minute romantic comedy type pieces. And one year Rob wrote a piece that we both starred in that was about a couple who goes, we basically arrive home after being at a marriage equality protest, along with, I think, the sister of one of our characters and her husband. And they're like, oh my God, we're so happy to be there for you guys today. And we can't wait until marriage equality is the law of the land. We can't wait till you get married. And we're like, oh, we don't want to get married. We want the right to get married, but we don't want to actually get married. And I think for a while, that sort of felt like what I was more in the fight for. I just wanted equality more than I wanted that label. And then it wasn't until we were in the process of starting to expand our family that then I thought about it for, again, pragmatic reasons, where, in the state of California, same-sex couples can both be on the birth certificate listed as parents, and for taxes and things like that. I was like, oh, I think it'd be easier if we just got married. And so it started that way. And then I think in planning our little elopement wedding that we had in Hawaii, I think then it became a little more romantic, along the way. But I think it started out for, really more just like, how can we save a buck?
That makes sense. But that it's interesting because growing up, I mean, my father never knew, and he would always ask, will I see you married? And I said, no, I'm married to my work. And I, my parents fought, like most, so marriage was never that thing for me. But in 2011, when I was living in New York City, they were deciding New York State if it was going to be legal. And it just angered me so much that somebody was trying to take that right if I ever wanted it. And it was really that really made me change my perspective on it. Adam and Adam, did you always want to get married? Adam and Adam, did you freeze? I think
Are we okay?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, there you are.
We lost you guys for a minute.
Did you hear? Did you always want to get married?
Here, wait. I'm gonna send them a message. Now you're muted.
Who's muted?
The Adams. Oh, they're gone.
Here they come. A lot of fans are talking while we're chatting, and Michael, who had sent that message along, said he was told by a guidance counselor that he should get conversion therapy back in the day, which is awful.
Oh, that's terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick them off.
Okay.
Do you want to text them and tell them to try to get back in? They'll have
sure.
They'll have no problem. But it is interesting that you said the same thing about no one should have the right to tell us we can't have the same if we want to get married. That should be our choice.
Yes, at the end of the day, I think it's to me it was always just a question of equality, and I'm so confused oftentimes by the way in which religion permeates its way into politics. When I grew up, I remember learning one of the core tenets of the Constitution is that there is a separation of church and church and state. Right. And there is, everyone is entitled to their beliefs, and you can believe what you want, but I think when you try to use your beliefs to mitigate or take away somebody else's rights, then we have a problem. And that is what, we see happen time and time again. Hi guys, welcome back.
Hey, I don't know.
Everything froze. I don't know.
Yeah, it was funny. I asked a question and then I'm like, oh wait, I was like, are they thinking about the answer? I had asked if you had always wanted to get married, both of you.
Yeah, I just never thought it'd be to a man. No, that was the hardest thing when I met him. I was like, I could not open up really, because he's like, why can't you tell me what's going on in your head? I'm like, I want a family, I want to get married. I can't do this with you, but then I was quickly introduced to some people that are making it happen. Yeah, everything changed.
Like Mr. Rikaart here, who has beautiful Monty.
Yeah,
Adam,
exactly. Yeah, and our friends had, my friend's mom said to him the same thing, like, "Oh, I always wanted you to be a father." And when he came out to her, and he has this amazing family, like with his husband and like with another, like they co-parent with this other woman, and
Mother.
who's the mother of these children, and it's like a beautiful thing, and that really, I think, the more
is that a gay man co-parenting? Is that a gay?
Yeah, with a lesbian woman, but they're not together. They're co-parenting. But there's so many ways to do this, and these kids are so loved. They're not, they go back and forth to these loving homes.
Yeah,
and you don't get that always in whoever's raising the child, and so that's why it's so scary, like that some people want to go back, because there's so much beautiful movement forward.
Yeah.
And I just, for us, I think I've always been a hopeless romantic, and like I wanted to get married, and when we were engaged, it was a long engagement, but everyone's like, just do it already, like go get married. But it was really important for us to have the same kind of wedding that our brothers and sisters got to have. It was something we both wanted, and we both knew that, and our parents helped us pull that off. And it was in a beautiful place up in Topanga, like half inside, half outside. It was like the dream scenario that we wanted. And it was important for us because it really was an anchor, it still is, to our commitment to each other and our bond. And it helped open up our family's minds. Like nobody came who didn't want to come. There were people who didn't want to come and didn't come, sadly. But everybody who's there wanted to be there. But some just came because they love us. And in the process, like our fathers wrote in our books, both of them separately, that you taught me what love was today. They both wrote that similar message to us. And that blew our minds, like we read that in our books and we were like, whoa, this is unbelievable. A cop and a, military man who were so against this. We changed their hearts today just by standing up here and being authentic and speaking our truth. And I said this again in our podcast, like I didn't know that I thought to myself, how am I going to dance with him in front of people? How am I going to kiss him in front of everyone? I never really do that. And that day changed all that for us. We didn't even think of that. And there's the photo. Because we had so much love coming at us, it was like a love bubble of support that all that other stuff melted away. So I'm so glad we did do it,
It's I really never, ever expected to get married. And we did it in 2013, which was still early.
Yeah.
And, as much as I feel we changed minds, you doing it, 5 years ago is still changing minds. Every person who is going through this step is helping to change people's minds. And that's the importance of it, to make it,
Yeah. And I will say, Alan, and it is like what Greg said earlier about, what that casting person said to him. It has changed. It has changed a lot, but it hasn't fully changed. There is still, I experience a stigma still. And I think there is still boxes. Hollywood will always be that way. There's boxes for everything, there's boxes in life, whatever. But with casting, there's always boxes, but I think there still is that box. And so sometimes there is apprehension. I'm not going to lie in myself to like, am I really going to go do this podcast, and talk about this? I don't hide that I'm with him, but I was told years ago to hide it on social media. Mm-hmm. That was just a couple of years ago, and I don't hide him. I don't hide our love. I don't hide that I'm married to a man. But sometimes when I'm on Long Island, sometimes I find myself censoring it a bit. And I have to constantly remind myself that, like, no, you walk your walk, because it does affect people. It does affect those people who don't understand it because they weren't exposed to it,
Mm-hmm.
People, I think also, Adam, that also is less about like, it sounds to me that is less about you sort of being ashamed in any way, but there is that sort of survival instinct, right? Like when you were talking about being
Oh, yeah.
in Long Island, like I think about how I don't think, let's see, maybe in the last 5 years we've been to Florida to see my parents as a unit, the three of us, maybe one time, because I'm like, I don't know how safe I feel. I've been with Monty a bunch, just the two of us, but like I don't know how safe I feel in a place where we could be subject to discrimination.
Yeah.
And then it's not about like there's no shame. It's more just about survival. And particularly when Monty was younger, I'm like, I don't know if I want, because we've, I think there was one time we were going to either Texas or Florida, and Rob was like, "Oh, I feel like we got like some funny looks from that guy because we were traveling together with Monty." And it's clear, like and it's a shame, and it's not. Again, I don't think it speaks against authenticity, but I have had those same thoughts too about, well, what's in my best interest, what's safest for me and for my family right now. So.
Yeah, you do have, unfortunately, we do have to survival kicks in. Yeah. I mean, we had gone on a safari in 2015, and we were friends and we were married already, but we got separate beds, in the, Africa's a very, different place, but you do have to think of it. You do have to think of those things to protect your families. Greg, you had Monty through surrogacy.
Yes.
What is, your feeling right now on the conversation about reproductive rights and IVF? I mean, you have Monty because of IVF.
Not just, yes. Like, I mean, it is such a, it is mind-blowingly unfathomable to me that this is an issue. We are not the only family that has had a child through IVF. There are evangelical Christians who have had children through IVF. This should not be a liberal versus conservative point of view. It is astonishing that they're going after this. And also, but great, let them do it. It is a losing issue. The same way, like anytime reproductive rights for women have been on a ballot since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, Republicans have lost in droves. So let them put it on the ballot wherever they need to, because I mean, it's just, So I have strong feelings about it. I don't like it.
And you should. Yeah. I have tons of friends who've had, children the same way. And I saw Amy Klobuchar last night on Rachel Maddow. 8 million babies have been born that way.
Wow.
Throughout.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's,
it's disturbing. It's disturbing.
And also, sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay. I just think it's I don't know what the end game is, I really don't know what, well, I mean, I guess I do. It's like just government having, on one hand, it's like they advocate for smaller government and less intervention, but they're really trying to intercede in people's private lives, and particularly women and women. And it's a very disturbing trend, and I really hope it is just a dying gasp of an era that is, and desperate. Again, I don't think people are not quick to just sort of throw in, wave the white flag, and I think this movement is dying, and I think kind of going back full circle to what we were saying earlier, it's like, support for not just reproductive freedom, but LGBTQIA like rights and all that is astoundingly high amongst lower people. And they know that. It's why there's book bans, and they're trying these last ditch efforts to get support back in the direction they want it in. But, it's, I'm just ready to see it go away. I don't want to be
ready for women.
It's sad that people want to go backward to this place we were just talking about, where the stigma came about gay people living in the shadows and in the dark and secret lives and cheating on their wives or whatever, because they had to. So why do you want to go back to this place that puts those people in that place when they're now, we're now in a place where people can live their lives. So the thing that maybe you put the stigma on about that LGBT community is now out, and they're able to be in love. And it's sad. It's really sad. Even back to your story about like seeing someone, look at you guys when you were away, Greg and Rob and Monty. We had that, in North Carolina. We went once, and we were at a shop, just innocently. It's so jarring because you're in this innocent, loving moment of like looking at, I don't know, cute stuff looking at bread or snacks, but in a little general store or by the side of the road that's quaint and cute, and it's so pure and innocent and just love, and two people connecting because they're happy they're on vacation and together, and these people give this nasty, dirty look to you, and you know what it is, and you're
parking lot.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it was a girl and a guy.
Maybe we got the last loaf of bread they wanted.
Yeah, maybe they really wanted that raisin bread. But that to me is such a heartbreak, because it's like, wow, that you'd rather put that hatred first than just see pure love, and it's so jarring because you just don't. You're in this pure moment, and you're like, oh, and that's why it hurts so bad. That's why it wounds you for a moment, because you're like, that was just us connecting. Wow, that sucks. And the fact that anybody would want to go back to that is so horrible to me,
Yeah, and it's also connected to, there will still be abortions. Women are still going to get them, and basically what's going to happen is, wealthy women will be able to pay for safe abortions, and the women who need safe abortions the most and need places like Planned Parenthood are going to be the ones who are going to be in unsafe, unhealthy situations. So yeah, we got to vote, guys. We got to vote. We got to win.
Everybody does have to vote, and I'm praying those women whose rights are being taken and stripped in every state and every part of this country get out in droves. In terms of representation in the media and visibility, and it doesn't have to be somebody sort of in Hollywood. I'm curious who you admire for sort of what they do for our community and speak up for, or fight in what way. I'm just curious if there's maybe somebody I'm not aware of, or
I'll say Pete Buttigieg. I'll just jump in and say that quick. Pete Buttigieg. I was thinking of him the other day, like out of nowhere, like, wow, man, wouldn't that be crazy if he actually became president? Would they ever allow that to happen? Like, a man and a man in the White House, man and the first man, so the first lady.
Yeah.
And then like that morning, like that always happens, he was like giving this great soundbite on Twitter about all of what we're talking about now, sort of, going back and trans people now being a target. And he's so eloquent and he lives his life so authentically, and he's not shouting. He's just there speaking from his heart. And he's inspiring to me.
I will second that. I think he's one of the smartest men, gay, straight, they, them, whatever he decides. He is just a smart, articulate, calming voice speaking sort of just facts.
Yeah. This is gonna sound so boring, but I literally, before you said it, Adam, I wrote down Buttigieg, which was the first thing that came to mind. And frankly, not just Pete, but that whole family. I think they're eloquent and they're smart, and I certainly think if anyone has a shot at being the first gay president, it's definitely him. He's just a brilliant man. And I think he really aspires to do good in the world and would be a great leader for our country. He's already doing great things as transportation secretary. So I would love to see that. And I am very inspired by that family.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Don't say Pete Buttigieg.
No, I agree with that though completely. I mean, just in terms of like the business we're in, and honestly, actors I always looked up to Adam when I met him because he was at a different caliber. He was doing more when I met him in the acting world, and to see him succeed and navigate, what we had, but he was going through it in real time. It was like I was learning from that. I was like taking notes, and even actors like Greg, and meeting him, and people that are just comfortable in their own skin but are succeeding and doing great things, and Matt, and like actors like that I've had the pleasure of meeting and gotten to know, and seeing how well received they are in the community and in the acting world. So it gives me hope that
it's so inspiring to see someone like Matt. And I worked with Matt on Guiding Light when he was not out of the closet. So it's incredible to see that journey, and using his voice and to help pave the way, really.
Yeah. So seeing successful, men and women, they and them in the community that are living their truth and being received well in amazing projects across the board, like that gives me hope.
Greg and Adam Huss, you said you arrived in Hollywood, sort of the same time. When did you feel a shift at a certain point? Was there a moment that you sort of felt a shift in how Hollywood was opening itself up to actors being out and hiring actors?
I think marriage equality sure changed things, that was the beginning, I'd say. I'd say it really started to happening like when was gay marriage legalized? What year?
When they were
12, I think. 12 or 13.
Yeah, I think because I remember I was part of
13. I think because I was on a series around that time, and things were still not completely open, but they were becoming open. And then I feel like it started really shifting in 2016, 2017. I don't know. It just started feeling more, you'd see breakdowns that were more open in describing like that they wanted a openly LGBTQ person, or, which is great, that there's more representation there. Yeah.
And then the trans people coming out and saying, male representing, female representing breakdowns. I think that's when I started really going, wow, this is great. That they're giving, that things are shifting.
Well, speaking of, sort of representation, Greg, what has it meant for you to play a gay character? You got Leo Stark in 2017 or 18, right?
Yeah, I think I started filming in 2017. I don't think I aired until 2018. What does it mean? Well, it's funny. I think, and I've said this before, Leo is certainly morally gray, and he's not, he's not a do-gooder. He's not. I wouldn't describe him as being aspirational. So I think that
he wouldn't be in your community.
I mean, no, he would be like, I would steer clear of Leo. Or maybe when I was younger, he'd be like that hot mess friend that you were like, Leo's coming, all right. And you'd sort of like put up with him. But, but I also think that, and I do get like, there's a few vocal dissenters of that character who claim that he's just a stereotype and that he sort of puts the movement backwards and stuff. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because I think full equality is being able to not just have wallflower, rule following, gay, lesbian, transgender, queer questioning characters on the canvas, but to have like a gay villain is a further step in the right direction, in my opinion. And he's not even a villain. He's just, I would say he's just a mischief maker.
And there's all kinds of people in the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, like Mannequin, with Hollywood, because remember Hollywood?
Yes.
Yes, loved. Mikhail, what was it?
Mahad Brooks, right?
Yeah.
Mahad Brooks.
Oh God, I love that movie.
Yeah, I think he passed, but yeah, he was a straight actor. I'm pretty sure, and that character was so flamboyant, so out there, and now someone might have an issue with that and say he was putting on gay face, but at the time, I remember loving Hollywood and my mom laughing at him. Like we all, it was like he was so funny, and he was Andrew McCarthy's character's friend, and he was an ally, and he helped him. He was almost like his mentor because he helped him embrace falling in love with the Mac. But like, that movie, the movie's just not very deep, but like the fact that you had that kind of character, you just laugh along with him. To me, that started breaking down and even when you think of Modern Family, that Cam and
Eric Stone Street. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to just see that. I want to see I want to see Brokeback Mountain and then their love in the end and who they really were. I want to see all these different characters because that's to me is what is so important in representation. It's not one thing like this LGBTQ movie has to be cookie cutter. It's about, right. And again, like Adam and I also produce stuff and we're writing stuff that is about like characters of all different spectrums in different genres that aren't necessarily just a gay film, but you get to see those people represented in a film and go, hey, this is great. This is the way that I think, we're such a entertainment driven culture, and we all can reference things that have changed our lives or inspired us or influenced us. So to have that now and those characters, you're reaching a wider audience in that way, and opening minds and hearts in that way to go, oh my God, that's me. And I never would have thought, like you said earlier, I never would have thought that I could have seen a gay superhero or something, and now you can, and you're like, again, YA did that so well first, and it helped me open up. So I know that now the culture now, the media now is helping.
You shared that about the YA books for others who might watch this, just to see yourself, on the page as well is always helpful as well.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about those is it bounces between most of them bounce between like both characters' point of view, and they're written so well that you get to see. Anyway, it's just, there's a book called Openly Straight that I love. And it's like this gay kid who was out in his community and his parents supported him, and he went to college and he went back in the closet and he's openly straight, like to people. And all of a sudden, like he gets this whole new identity and all these new friends, but he meets the love of his life, and who quote unquote was a straight guy, and they're falling in love. And then as that straight guy's coming out to him, he's now conflicted with this new identity, So, and that was such a beautiful book. And there's like a sequel. Bill Konigsberg wrote it, and it made me cry, that book. I remember like stopping and just having like closed the book and just like crying because I wanted that kind of love. I wanted the world to see that. And then when we got together, I'm like, you have to read this book. And another one, Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Another gorgeous book, was just made into a movie. There's also a sequel novel. Also beautiful book about these two Latin boys falling in love from totally different sides of the street, different families, different support system, and really beautiful stories, really touching.
I wish I had thought of this earlier, but there is a book I read back in the day, and I might even have it here, but Matt Bomer is actually the cover. He was like the model for I think it's a YA book, to be honest. It was a story, a gay story, but he's on the cover. I can't think of the name of it. Wow. I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you guys. But Adam Bucci, I wanted to point out, yesterday, Governor Murphy in New Jersey established an advisory commission on advancing LGBTQIA and youth equity inclusion in schools here in New Jersey. Wow, which is, I just, couldn't imagine something like that. Before I let you go, Greg, you are running the New York City Marathon in November.
Yes, I am. I am running the marathon.
Yes.
And
raising
money.
Wow.
Yeah, raising money for St. Jude's. I think as it draws nearer, I will continue to put that link out because I still have some more money to raise. But
I put the link up on YouTube if anybody wants to donate.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I think I think it's sort of a bucket list thing for me. I've always been sort of fascinated by people who can run marathons. I have an uncle who ran the New York City Marathon, and I grew up on Staten Island where the marathon starts. And when I was 12 years old, I walked across the Verrazano Bridge when they closed it for the 25th anniversary. So it feels like a fun reverberation to then now run across it. So yeah, I'm still in the beginning of my training. I haven't broken 10 miles yet, but I'm getting there. And I'm excited and terrified, which is a good reason to do something, right?
It's incredible. That was a bucket list for me, but at almost 58, it's not, and with 2 new hips, it's not.
Hey, never say never. Never say never.
But it was, because I agree for many of the same reasons. I actually got to cover it as part of like an internship when I was starting out in my career at ABC television, and I went to Staten Island. But congrats, I think that's great.
Thanks.
And
sorry, go on.
St. Jude's is incredible.
Yeah. I think the work they do is phenomenal. No, I mean, no parent should ever have to have a child who's a patient at St. Jude's, but it is a remarkable thing that hospital exists.
100%. Well, Adam Bucci, I wanted you to tell everybody about your clothing company.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, during COVID, I started Small Town Weirdo. And here's one of my shirts. So, we're big horror fans and in that pop culture horror world. And so I just embraced that and created merchandise in that genre. I started out as painted apparel, which I still do. But now I have a whole online
I'm going to get one.
I love it. I also put the link up for anybody who wants to check it out. That's up there. I'm going to show you guys. One of the fans sent me the cover. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's because it is cool. I wanted to pick this one because
but a Barbie mashup. So it's all glitter, can't paint. They take about 4 weeks to do. So that's just a little tease.
Do you design them all?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And some are just straight up horror. Nancy in the pool, iconic.
Do you guys have any projects coming out that you want to tell anybody about? You guys with Molecule Productions?
We have a feature film working on it called Original True. That's a coming of age. Think of it as a LGBTQ Pretty in Pink meets Scott Pilgrim. And the hero is like a comic book artist whose book goes viral, like the Mean Girls burn book. And as the book becomes popular, it turns the tides in the school where the bullies basically become the outcasts. And 20% of the movie's animated. So we're working on that with some bigger people, and hopefully that's getting off the ground. And currently we're doing this small short film for the 1 10-minute film festival. It has a Back to the Future theme to it. And we love to do these things every year where like we try to get people to vote through a creative film. And we found a bunch of film festivals. We won this like M. Night Shyamalan contest. So we're doing this one this year. So you can check our social medias for some more info about that.
Yeah, we're trying to raise money.
Awesome.
Well, I loved the 2 short films I watched that you guys did. Greg Rikaart, I just saw your private message. I'm sorry we missed your husband.
That's okay. He was going to try and log on during he just went back to work this week.
No worries.
Join us.
Hey, this is the book, Rainbow Boys. There's Matt in the upper corner.
Oh my gosh.
Alex Sanchez.
Wait, I don't see it.
Back in the day.
Oh wow.
Who are the other? Do you know who those other two
No,
are?
I don't. I don't know if they are. And I think it was just like a modeling thing Matt did back in the day.
Can you put it up again? Did you just put it up? I missed it.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Here it is.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, one of our fans remembered the name. I knew because I enjoyed I think there were a couple books possibly in the series. Gentlemen, this was really terrific. Thank you for.
Thank you, Alan.
you.
It's great to see you together. It's always great to see
Yeah.
you. Same with the Adams, whom I adore.
You too. You too, Greg. I really hope that you're sitting like this the whole time. That picture, you just like your picture. Every time you smoke.
Could you imagine if like I'm like, oh no, that's me. I'm actually my camera froze, but that is literally how it is.
Yeah. That's terrific. Well, Adam Huss, let me know when I know you said you're going to be back east. So
I will. Yes. September. Yeah.
Keep me posted. Happy Pride, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
I know the viewers really appreciated the conversation.
Awesome. I did too.
So happy to do it.
Okay.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Really means the world to me that Adam, and Greg would take the time and join me for this conversation. Please join me this Thursday, June 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern, when Guiding Light's Maeve Kincaid joins me live to celebrate what would have been Guiding Light's 72nd anniversary on June 30th. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you like to stream audio versions, you can do that by searching The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. As always, please, everybody, stay safe, and I'll see you on Thursday.